Hi everyone, in today's quick tip video I'm going to show you how to use a knockdown stitch behind embroidery decoration. Now some people I think call them pile down. I think in the UK we normally know them as knockdown stitches, and they're basically a kind of foundation stitch that goes down before your main design, and you use them whenever you're using anything that's quite plush or got a deep pile, so that your embroidery stitches don't get lost within the depth of the pile, if that makes sense. So I have a baby blanket to do, which I've purchased, and it's quite a plush baby blanket, and I've got a really nice font that I bought. It's quite a big size font, but I was thinking that there's a possibility that the name I want to embroider on this blanket may get lost in the pile. So I thought I would try out a knockdown stitch. You can buy packages of knockdown stitches in kind of various shapes on, several of the embroidery sites. And in Embrilliance Essentials, which is the embroidery program I use, which I've got open here, you can't add a knockdown stitch to your text. But I believe if you've got one of the other modules, it might be Enthusiast, I could be wrong, you can add a knockdown. So the only way for me to be able to use this knockdown stitch would either to be upgrade my Embrilliance Essentials to the module that lets me add a knockdown, which means I've obviously got to pay quite a lot more, or buy a pre-made knockdown pattern. And as I've never used one before, I decided to just buy a singular pattern. Okay, hopefully this will become clearer when you see how this looks on the screen and when you see what I am actually stitching and how the finished result looks. I've got Embrilliance Essentials opened here, and I've got my big hoop selected, my 12 by 8 hoop, and I've orientated the hoop so it's in the kind of landscape position, because I want to type the names, as I say, the font's quite big, and then I'm going to embroider the name this way on the bottom of my blanket. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up to the text box at the top, and then I'm going to come over to the right hand side, and where all the fonts are, I'm going to find the font that I want to use, and it's this one, BD Market Font, and it's in 2, 3 and 4 inches, and I'm going to use the 3-inch. So straight away you can see that the ABC, which Embrilliance Essentials puts on your mat by default when you choose the text icon, has now changed to the style of font I want to use. So I'm going to highlight where it says text over here and ABC, and I'm going to type the name, and I'm going to type it in capitals, and it's Romeo, and I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard, and then straight away that changes the ABC to the name. And if you look down here, you can see that the selected item is 6 3/8 wide and 3 1/16 high, and the 1/16 I think is allowing for the bounding box that's around it, so the imaginary selection box, if you like. If I click away, there's no box, but obviously when you select an item, it puts a bounding box around it, and I think the 1/16 is the size of, or the height of my font, including that bounding box, because I chose a 3-inch font. Okay, so that's my name, and that's just centered in the middle of the hoop, and it doesn't really matter at this stage where it is in the hoop, because I'm going to print this design. I've actually already made this file and I've got it saved on my desktop, but I just want to show you the process. So now I'm going to come up to the top of the page, and I'm going to come to the very end icon that says merge a stitch file. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to navigate to where I've saved the Knockdown file, which I purchased from Applique Market. Okay, so there are 11 Knockdown files within this folder, and I've chosen PES because that's the format that my brother machine uses. And the sizes start at 2 inch and go up in 1/2 inch increments all the way up to 7 inches. I'm going to choose the 6.5, and I'm just going to double click it and it brings it onto my page. So if I select my name is 6 3/8, and this Knockdown stitch should be 6.5 inches. So I'm going to hover over the top right hand corner and there's a little circle and a rotate icon appears. Or I can come up to the top of the page and I can rotate the selected rectangle 90 degrees right or left. It doesn't really make any difference. So you can see that it's maybe just not quite wide enough for my name, but it's not tall enough. So I'm going to bring it down just so that it goes just below the bottom of my name. And then while it's selected, I'm going to drag it up so it goes just above the top. And then I'm going to drag it out ever so slightly so that it covers the name. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change it to a different colour in the hope that you might see it better on screen. So I've got it selected. You can see it's the blue swatch over here on the right hand side. I'm going to left click on the swatch and I'm going to choose by name and I'm just going to type cream and see what comes up and hit go. And I'm going to change it to a kind of cream colour and I'm going to say OK. At the moment it's on top of my name and obviously I need it to stitch out before my name because that's the whole idea of it. It knocks down the pile on your material so that then you can stitch your name over the top of it and you don't lose the words. So I'm just going to left click at the top over here on the name and I'm going to drag it down to the bottom. And you should now be able to see that the name is on top when I click away and the beige box, which is the Knockdown file, is on the bottom. I'm going to select both of them and I'm going to come up to the icon here, which is the align and distribute icon. And I'm going to ask it to align its center horizontally and apply, and you see it shifted over. And I'm just going to do it vertically and see if it needs moving as well on the vertical and say apply and close. So now basically the name Romeo is centered to that Knockdown stitch that is behind, and you can choose to have that Knockdown stitch as close or as far apart from the name as you like. I'm going to select it. I'm just going to make it just a little bit wider and a little bit taller. And then I'm going to select both again and do align, center, center, apply and close and see how that looks. And I think that looks fine. I don't want the Knockdown design to be dominant. I want the name to be dominant, but I just want the Knockdown stitch to take the pile down so that my font stands out. So basically that's how it's going to look. And if you want to see that you've got everything in order, if you come up to the top of the page where you've got this like needle with a thread going through it and you hover over it, it says Stitch Simulator and it'll bring up this bar and you can see that the beige creamy colour is the first section in this like timeline, if you like. So that means that's what's going to stitch first. And then the black is the name. It's quite easy to see here because I'm only using 2 colours, but sometimes in a design, if you've got lots of colours, you'll have lots of different colours in this timeline. And basically you can either, you know, choose to play it from here, or you can just grab this little kind of triangle and drag it along, and this is how it will stitch out. So it's going to stitch out the Knockdown and then it will stop for me to change colour on my machine because this is cream and this is black, so it knows to stop. And then I can change it to black thread if that's what I want to use, or whatever colour I want to use, and it will stitch out the name. I'm actually going to do my knockdown stitch in white and my name in blue. My blanket's white, so I'm going to do the knockdown in white in the hope that it kind of blends in with my blanket. So that's how you use a knockdown stitch and, you know, add a name. It doesn't have to be a name, it could be another design you want to merge in, but in this particular instance, I'm using a name. So basically what I would do now is go to the top of the page and I would go down to print, and my print dialog box would show up, and I would send this to my printer and print it, and then I would just hand cut around this knockdown area on my printer paper, and then that will show me, that will be my guide for lining it up on my blanket. But I also want to save the file so that I can put it on a USB stick and put that into my sewing machine to show you how I'm going to stitch it out in the next part of the video. So again, I would go up to the top of the page and I would choose Save Stitch and Working File, because that way you can always come back to it if you decide, you know, in between doing this and get into your machine, if you think actually maybe I could do this bigger or I could make this smaller. You know, if you save a working file, you can just open up the working file. So my save dialog box automatically comes up with mydesign.pes because that's the format that I'm saving in. So I would highlight my design, give it a name. You can see it says PES is already selected here. That's because it's here. And I would put this onto a USB stick, which I've not got plugged into the machine at the moment, or I could save it to my downloads folder or my desktop. And then once I get the USB stick and plug that into the back of my machine, I can just come to my downloads folder and drag out the two files, the working file and the PES file. And then, you know, if I'm happy with how everything is, I just need to call up the PES file on my sewing machine and stitch it out. So I hope you found that helpful. Please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next part of the video, which is where I'm going to show you how I'm going to line this up on my blanket and how I'm going to stitch it out. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.